What is going on, ladies and gents? Welcome to Collectors Gone Digital. My name's Josh, and on today's episode, we're going to be discussing some collectibles on VEVE in their development process. So we're going to be taking a look at some behind-the-scenes content for certain pieces on the platform, and some pieces among brands like Star Wars and Disney, which I was actually quite surprised to find. Now, some of these collectibles are going to be complete renders. Some are going to be the models before they were textured, so just all gray. And then some are going to show the complete revision notes. So without further ado, let's kick things off. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. All right, so there are going to be 3 artists that I want to highlight in today's episode, and all 3 are going to be from completely different parts of the globe. So we got one from the US, okay, one in Europe, and then one in New Zealand. Each one of these artists are showcasing work in their portfolios of projects they've done for VEVE. What's interesting though is one of them didn't work directly with VEVE. They worked for a studio that was contracted by VEVE, and they actually give us the name of that studio. Now, today's episode is not going to be dedicated to that studio. They are going to be called Studio Canal. However, I will be doing a full episode on them as well as their parent company. Whether they're still involved with VEVE, I have no idea, but we do now know that they've done past work for them. All right, so I am going to link all this stuff down below, but the first one I do want to point out here is actually going to be 2 sets on VEVE, heading all the way back to Season 1 here. We're going to have the Adventure Time series, as well as the Powerpuff Girls. So these series were actually created by an artist. His name is Paul Young, and he's going to be based out of Auckland, New Zealand. Now, before I dive into his profile description, which is very interesting, okay, we're going to take a look at these collectibles for a sec. There actually isn't any revision notes with this one, so we're going to breeze through it, but those are going to be the final renders, these, as you can see. And then down below, shows a little bit more with the white background before they were inputted into VEVE, and then the full set here with Adventure Time. So he was responsible for both these sets, it looks like. And as you guys are about to hear, he's been involved with a lot more. Now, there's 2 things I want to point out in his profile description, and the first thing is this. As a brand concept artist, he worked with global IP including Star Wars, Star Trek, The Simpsons, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Ghostbusters, Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, Disney, Marvel, Universal Pictures, Pixar, DreamWorks, Capcom, Blizzard, and the list keeps growing as Paul has now become the go-to for showcasing brands' LPs to the international market. The reason why I want to point that out is because it now supports my second point here, which is this. From 2018, Paul has contributed to the NFT markets. Hired as the art lead for VEVE Digital Collectibles in 2018, Paul designed the first Cartoon Network series of NFTs to the world with Adventure Time and the Powerpuff Girls, and assisted with the onboarding of clients such as Bandai, Activision, Bruce Lee, Funko, Konami, NBC, Nickelodeon, Pokemon, and Walt Disney Pixar Marvel. From 2021 until present, so it does not sound like he's still with VEVE, he's been working as the art manager and lead artist for Non-Fungible Labs / Futureverse, which is another name we've heard in the community. Now, I read that description and I think 2 things. So first off, the point talking about him onboarding clients is grouped with his experience at VEVE. So all the brands listed here, like Activision, Bruce Lee, Funko, I don't know if that's IP pertaining to VEVE, or if that's just IP he's helped onboard to various platforms. But the way that it is written here makes it sound like it is associated with VEVE. On top of that, a lot of the brands listed there we already have. So again, going back to that first point about how he's become the go-to man for these brands to be introduced to the global marketplace, isn't that exactly what VEVE's kind of doing here? I mean, maybe not a brand like Disney that's already known globally, but definitely for some of the smaller ones. Now, heading over to our next artist here, Steve Hunsicker. The last artist, Paul Young, only had 1 piece of work on his platform related to VEVE. In this case, Steve has multiple. So we see Lion King here, we see Boo's Door. We keep scrolling down here. We're going to come across Anna. We got Jabba the Hutt, the CoCo drop, more Lion King, and that's going to be it. But we got some interesting notes here, people. Now, Steve is going to be based on the opposite side of the globe this time. in San Marcos, United States. He's a senior 3D artist and material specialist with over 15 years experience in character and environment art, specializing in surfacing, materials, and outsource management. So the first one of his we're going to take a look at here is Scar from Lion King. Not much to look at here again, but something to learn about the piece. The hair, it's hand painted. And Steve says that sometimes procedural just doesn't cut it. And then he also says that many more examples of his work with Disney are going to be in his gallery, but this one in particular is his favorite. So next up, we're going to have Anna from Frozen, and this is where things start to get a little bit more interesting. So check this out. So first off, this collectible was made in Unity, and I believe all of them pretty much are, if not modeled in Blender and then imported into Unity. But as you can see on the right hand side here, Unity asset. Now if we scroll down here, we're going to start to come across some revision notes. And this, guys, is the type of stuff I really like. So let's move from left to right here. The first one says push details in lips. So the far left and right hand side of her lips are going to be a little bit more rounded. As you guys can see, the little U here, little bend a little bit more. Eye color is slightly off. Add some subtle eyeshadow, I guess right above here. A little bit of yellow. I think that's yellow. Break up hair smoothness, too even. Too even. I don't know if that's the word. I would say clumped. But as you can see, it's a lot more loose here. Clumped together here. Reduce size of eyelashes. I was even going to say that kind of the shape of the eyes are a little off as well. Kind of the opposite. But need more blush. Sure. To be honest, I don't really see that one. I see more red on this one than I do here. But and then use emission to stimulate subsurface. I have no idea what that is, so not going to pretend like I do. And of course, I'm sure probably everybody understands this by now, but we're not looking at the final piece here, guys. So if you guys do question whether this is the one on VeVe or not, it is. It's just not the finalized version. So next up, we got Jabba the Hutt, and only Jabba the Hutt. I know there were 2 more in this drop as well, so maybe they contracted the work out to 2 other artists. But this one is going to be created in Unity as well, as you see down here. And if we keep scrolling, we got some more notes. So the first one says reduce rusty browns by 10 to 20%. Okay, interesting. Shapes and belly need to be more clearly defined. It's so interesting to me, like what the artists see versus what the average person sees, because the average person would not pick up on any of this. Like the average person would probably look at this model and go, hey, it looks pretty good, right? What actually stands out to me on this one isn't any of the things they pointed out here. It's actually the arms. The arms to me look super green. Whereas in here, the color kind of matches the body a little bit more. Here it doesn't. So now if we keep scrolling, here's a funny one. The tattoo is upside down. So whoever originally modeled this actually put the tattoo upside down without realizing it. As you can see, this little hook here is at the bottom, and the original, it's at the top. So that's kind of funny. It's also too big, and then it needs to shrink by 25%. They also mentioned that the bump should push into the skin and not out. It needs to be more subtle. Now, I'm not going to lie, guys. I was quite shocked when I came across this one. The last thing I expected was to come across pieces pertaining to Disney Star Wars. But what it looks like here, and we kind of already knew this because of the video we did a while back on Game Art Brain, but VeVe is contracting the work out to various independent artists and artists that belong to certain studios they work with to model these collectibles. And speaking of studios, we're going to get into that in a moment here. But next up, we're going to have Miguel from the CoCo drop. So on the left-hand side is the reference photo. The middle image was the collectible that was currently being worked on. And then the right one is the target. So we can see here that the target doesn't end up looking exactly like the reference photo, but it is an improvement from the current version. So they boosted the hair smoothness multiplier to 0.85. They increased his eye reflection. They blurred noise under his eyes. And then they increased smoothness on his lips. And the last collectible pertaining to Steve here is going to be Rafiki from Lion King, with a bunch of notes for changes made to him. So at first the nose was too bright. They darkened it and made it more saturated. They boosted the specs on his cheeks. His belly was too blue, and they actually made it more gray. At the base of his staff, they were unable to see the patterns. They had to increase the specularity on his staff. And then speaking of his staff, the color was too even and flat. And they even used a photo as a reference for the grains in the wood. Now, the last artist we're talking about today is going to go by the name of Jake Lamb. He's based in Liverpool, United Kingdom. He currently works at a company called Expression Games. However, if we scroll down here, he worked on the Rambo drop. So let's click on this. If I go to the description, Studio Canal and their collaboration with VEVE. I'm finally happy to share some high poly work I did last year for Studio Canal. So like I said at the beginning of the video, I am going to be diving deeper into this company for a full episode. Because now, on top of Game Art Brain, who did some previous work for VEVE in the past, we've now found a second studio. So scrolling down here, no revision notes for Rambo, but you are going to see a full 3D model of the character before he was textured and animated, okay? So I don't know the specifics for the full process, but what I can say is that the general skeleton works like this. So you start off with somebody who will draw out and sculpt the model. From there, they may texture it themselves, but they may also pass it off to somebody who textures it. Think like a comic. Somebody draws it in black and white, another person colors it. From there, once it's textured, it's now going to go to somebody who rigs the character. So think about adding like bones and joints to a limp body. But on top of that, the job of the person who rigs the character is to put it into a position that the animator knows how to best use it. So when that person is done rigging the character, the animator, who is now the next person in line, should be able to, let's say, grab the hand of Rambo, for example, and then the arm and the shoulder will move accordingly, okay? So it's about connecting the different parts of the body as well during that rigging process. So what you guys are looking at on screen right now is before any of that happens. This is pretty much the point after it's been drawn out. It's just been turned into a 3D model, but it has yet to be textured. It may be rigged right now, actually. I don't know, but it obviously hasn't been animated. Now I'm going to end the video like this, okay? Who exactly is Studio Canal? They are a French film production and distribution company that owns the third largest film library in the world, okay? If I actually go down here, their subsidiaries are Studio Canal UK. Now, the artist that we just looked at here, he is going to be based in Liverpool, United Kingdom, okay? So I'm going to assume that it's this one. I'm going to click on that, go to the homepage, and some of the movies and IP you guys are going to see is going to be Rambo, you got Terminator, Total Recall, and things like that. So we're going to dive a lot more into this company. And then also what I noticed, if I go to About Studio Canal here and I scroll down, Studio Canal in the Canal Plus group, okay? So the Canal Plus company is the parent company here. So we're going to be talking about both. So if you guys are interested in learning more about this company, what they do, I don't know if they are still tied to VEVE or not. But regardless, we do know they've done work for them in the past. Which means, and going back to that point about how they have access to the third largest library in the world, it definitely could have opened some doors for VEVE. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to conclude today's episode. I hope you enjoyed. Those are 3 artists that have produced collectibles for VEVE in the past. Collectibles like Scar and Rafiki from The Lion King, Jabba the Hutt from Star Wars, Anna from Frozen, as well as more. Now, I will be finalizing that video on the comic shop owners this weekend. You guys can't expect that for next week. I know I said that twice now, but if you guys have been with the channel for a little while now, you know I'm a perfectionist. And yeah, I just want to make sure the video is good enough. So still working on it, but it will be out soon. If you guys enjoy the content, make sure to like and subscribe. Comment down below what you want to see in a future episode. As for our next, I'll catch you then.